Investors, welcome back to Green Money Momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and we are here for our weekly stock preparation live stream every single Sunday from here on out. We are live streaming our expectations for the upcoming week within the markets. This is going to be the first week of March, and so a lot of interesting things are happening right now when we talk about geopolitics. The big news this weekend, of course, being all around the United States and Iran, as missiles have officially been launched. So United States, Israel, and Iran in some conflicts right now. A lot of shocking videos coming out this weekend. Very crazy stuff to see. Give me just a second. I'm going to put my fan on here. And George, hey, great to see you here, buddy. Yeah, we just started the live stream. And so if you just caught us right here at the beginning, just talking about some of the geopolitical tensions that we are seeing right now, absolutely crazy things happening in the Middle East, not just in Iran, but also some missiles were launched out in Dubai. So we saw the Dubai airport get hit and a nearby hotel. And I even saw this one video where the plane went straight over where the person was and dropped a bomb. Absolutely insane footage. And what I will say about war and everything that is going on right now is, first off, nothing is new. These types of things have been happening since I was a child. Since my earliest memories, I could remember the United States being in conflicts with the Middle East. And so it's kind of just like the same story, but years later once again. But really unfortunate to see. And as a civilian, out here in Tempe, Arizona, I feel so blessed with everything that I have. I think it is just so beautiful out here. I'm looking out my window right now. I see beautiful water. I even see somebody, that's funny, somebody is fishing right now, but it's a beautiful day. I feel so blessed to have everything that I have, and it is just so unfortunate for anybody who is a civilian in the Middle East being hit right now. And this isn't the only thing that has been going wrong with Iran. Iran recently did also have their currency basically collapse. This has been happening over the last months, and so their currency is basically worth nothing in comparison to the US dollar right now. Just as this article reads right here, Iran's currency slides to new low, dollar at 1.47 million rubles, if I'm saying that right. That is absolutely crazy. Another very unfortunate thing to see happen. I could only imagine how devastating that would be to have your currency collapse. That is really unfortunate for anybody that is going through that. I saw Stephanie Diaz. Hey, welcome to the chat. You were here last week, and you might have even been here the week before, but thank you for once again joining us. We just started on the live stream 6 minutes ago, so we are just at the beginning of everything we could expect, which again, we're just recapping everything that happened this last weekend with the Iran situation. So all of this has been happening this weekend, and it has been confirmed by the president, as he did come out with an announcement. And he even said that there will be some U.S. casualties with this. So a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. The markets, the overnight markets, have yet to open. So right now it is 5:30 Arizona time. In 30 minutes, we are going to see the official overnight opens, and we're going to see if we either gap down or gap up to start this week in the stock market. But right now on the fear and greed index, and again, this is measurements from Friday, so before all of this has happened, we have already been in levels of fear. I could see the markets dropping a bit more from this news, and Bitcoin and all of crypto is kind of a leading indicator for the markets, and very interesting to see how Bitcoin and some of the main cryptos have reacted this last weekend, because we did see a drop off in Bitcoin with the initial news here. So right here, we did see a sell off, and then immediately that sell off was bought back up by the bulls, and now we have went sideways. What is interesting with this news and what recently happened is we did have this sell off here, but it was bought back very quick. And with this sell off, we did not get to the same low point that we were back in February when we saw some hard retraction. So we actually did not not make a lower low here, which is a positive. But again, this is just short-term analysis. Anything is possible, and we are still in a sideways trend with Bitcoin and, of course, the major indexes within the market. And Bitcoin right under a major level of support and resistance, right at about 75,000. Now, when it does come to the technicals with Bitcoin, we are looking a bit oversold. We are closer to the bottom than the top with the relative strength index, and we recently did have a bullish cross on the MACD. This is the same to be said with many different individual stocks. So right now, when it does come to technicals on many different plays and opportunities, many things are looking oversold. But again, there is a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market right now. And so today, we're going to talk a lot about energy. We're going to talk about some oils, some hard metals such as silver, as you see in the thumbnail for this live stream, because a lot of geopolitical tensions are going on right now. I believe that is going to be the main news through this week. Some more developments as this week goes forward with Iran, the United States, and Israel. But also, that's not the only geopolitical uncertainty we have in the air right now, because recently a lot of stuff was also happening in Mexico. And then when we do look at the economic calendar, we do have some important numbers this week. But again, I don't think that the numbers this week are going to be as much of an influence as everything that is happening with the Middle East and just geopolitical tensions. And so Monday, tomorrow, we have some manufacturing numbers. Tuesday, we have some members from the Fed speaking. Wednesday, we do have ADP employment. So these are going to be some important numbers. The median forecast is at 50,000 for the month of February. A lot of the jobs numbers did come in better than expected. So let's see if there could be a beat on ADP employment. On Thursday, we have the initial jobless claims. And then on Friday, we do have more around jobs. So we have the U.S. employment report and the unemployment rate. And so this week is going to be heavily influenced around the job market for the economic calendar. And of course, the Fed has a dual mandate of keeping stable prices while also maximizing employment. And so if we do see employment come in better than expected, I'm sure Donald Trump will go on to Truth Social and take the opportunity to shoot some more shots at Jerome Powell, saying that the Fed needs to cut. Right now, there is a less than 10% projection that the Fed does cut at this next meeting in March. So right now, I personally am not expecting a cut at this next meeting. I do believe we will start to see rate cuts as soon as we get the new Fed chairman in office. That should be Kevin Warsh, and that will be in May. And so if we do look at the projections for a rate cut this next meeting, slim to none at 7.3 for April. It's a little bit better, but still on the side of not cutting, most likely just having a pause with a 27% chance. But then when Jerome Powell is out and we get the new federal chairman, the odds greatly rise up to 54%. And this is a while away. So I could definitely see these odds increasing as we get closer. There has been some fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the markets about Kevin Warsh, many thinking that he is not going to cut like the president wants. But if you know anything about Donald Trump and Jerome Powell, they have been going back and forth on this subject. And so I highly doubt that Donald Trump is going to put someone in office, or I should say in the spot of the federal chairman position, that is not going to do what he wants. I do expect for Kevin Warsh to cut rates like the president wants. And it just makes sense because recently we have seen a lot of overnight liquidity with the Fed. They have been having to participate a lot in the repo market. And then when we do talk about the Fed's balance sheet, we did have a lot of quantitative easing in 2020. And then we started to see the runoff. They started to let a lot of the assets run off of the balance sheet. But if you do look at this chart here, very interesting, because if you look at the last 6 months, we have started to see a reversal here. The Fed once again buying back the bonds, the assets, and we may be seeing a reversal here when it comes to the Fed's balance sheet. We did have massive QE in 2020, but then they tried to tame the beast. But we have seen a lot of problems with that, with the interest rates placed where they are at. This causes a lot of pressure in society for a lot of different businesses who are borrowing, and then also the housing market. And so the Fed has already completely just cracked the money supply. A lot of manipulation here, and I just don't see the Fed continuing to let the assets run off, especially again when we just look at the last 6 months and what the Fed has done. So I do believe we are going to get a lot of quantitative easing in the markets in 2026, and I do believe that will happen when we do get Kevin Warsh. And again, it just makes sense because if you look at this chart here and the reversal that we may be seeing, even more QE. It makes sense with the Fed buying all these different assets, buying the bonds, the long-term treasuries, everything like that. It just makes sense to also bring down the rates because this will bring down the borrowing costs for everybody. Now here in the short term, some of the stocks that I want to look at here, or just some of the sectors around energy, because there's a lot happening and we may see a big pump in oil, and it would be greatly advised. Well, I can't give financial advice, never financial advice, just my opinion, but to possibly look at the energy sector here, look at some of the oil stocks, also defense, and then also the hard metals. Look at that beautiful picture there, or all these beautiful pictures with that beautiful hard metal of silver. I know a guy who has a ton of silver. He is a big silver bull, and so I know he is very excited about what we are seeing right now. Also, a lot of uncertainty around the COMEXs and if they will actually be able to fill orders. So we'll start here by analyzing on silver, because silver right now is looking very interesting. A way I invest into silver is in the iShares Silver Trust. And with silver, we did see a squeeze. There was a lot of FOMO on silver, but then we did see a retraction. We did recently get down to the 50-day moving average, and now having a bounce off of that level. We may be moving up once again on the relative strength index, and then we recently did just see a bullish cross on the MACD, and there is kind of a shortage when it comes to silver. A lot of demand right now with silver for many different reasons, especially with the society that we are going into, which is all around technology, AI, all these different big data centers. There's a lot of utility for silver. So silver looking like a very interesting play. What else did I write down here? So silver looking very interesting. Again, energy is also looking very interesting. Let's take a look here at some energy. So we have an energy ETF here. So with energy, we have started to push up most recently. I mean, look at this ETF here. Since April, like a lot of different assets, we have started to have a rip up, but most recently with everything that has been happening, we are starting to see more of a push in the energy sector. Again, this is one big energy ETF. Some defense plays to look at. We have Palantir here. Palantir right now at a very interesting spot, because man, when we just look at Palantir in terms of technical analysis, we are at such a crazy spot. If we do see all of this geopolitical tension benefit the defense sector, we could see a push in Palantir. But right now, Palantir is at a spot where it may be at the death cross. I mean, look at that, the 50-day tapping right at that 200-day MA. It is typically bearish and considered the death cross when you do see the 50-day drop under the 200-day MA. But with everything happening right now, this could be bullish for Palantir, and we could have a pushback up to the 200-day MA, which then again would push the 50-day back up. And right now on Palantir, in terms of technicals, we are looking a bit oversold on the relative strength index, and then we did just see a bullish cross on the MACD. But right here with that 50-day possibly intersecting with that 200-day, just proceed with some caution, because in the short term, there could be more volatility. But again, with where Palantir is positioned, being so close to the US government, this could actually be a positive for Palantir, and we may start to see a push up once again, and that could be in support with the other technicals looking a bit oversold on the relative strength index and the MACD. And so Palantir is looking very interesting. Another play here that is looking very interesting when we talk about defense is Big Bear AI. He's sitting in the background back there. Wave to everybody, Mr. Big Bear. Hey, Big Bear, he says, what's up? So Big Bear is going to be reporting earnings earnings tomorrow. Tomorrow, yes, March 2nd. It's going to be Monday. It's going to be in the after hours, I believe. Yep. Oh, wow. It's going to actually be, oh, what the heck? Okay, why is that showing February 13th? Something about the dates are off. Oh, I am looking at Wendy's. Oh my goodness, I clicked it right there. That is so funny. I clicked it right there with Big Bear, but it didn't. I guess it didn't click. So anyway, tomorrow here in the after hours, Big Bear is going to be reporting earnings. This is a defense play with Big Bear AI. They are not directly in everything that is happening with Iran right now, at least that we know of. And so Big Bear is defense. It is a small cap stock, currently with a market cap of 1.8 billion, but sectors do tend to run together. And so with everything that is happening, there may be some loading into the Big Bear with all of these tensions going into a more defensive play. And with Big Bear, what I like with tomorrow's earnings, I am not expecting much. They are not expected to have a great quarterly by any means. Their revenue estimate is lower than it was back last year in Q4 of 2024, and their EPS set to be the exact same here. With Big Bear, what I'll say is I am not expecting tremendous quarterlies here. I am expecting just what we have been seeing. But what I do love with the Big Bear, if they do come out and beat expectations, if we do see the defense sector running tomorrow, if the defense sector is already hot, we may see a big push up in the Big Bear if they do beat on Wall Street's expectations. But again, I am not betting on that. But when we do look at Big Bear in terms of technical analysis, I did recently purchase into some more Big Bear most recently, but we did have a breakdown from the sideways consolidation trend that we were in. We have now fallen under the 200-day and the 50-day moving average, with there unfortunately being the death cross here, but we are a bit oversold here on the relative strength index and the MACD. And an interesting concept when it comes to the options market with just with any stock, we'll look here at the options market with Big Bear AI. Something to look at is gamma exposure and where the big oh my gosh, sorry, a little bit dry here on the throat. That's what talking for 17 minutes gets you. But anyway, we have a lot of gamma exposure here on the Big Bear. The big gamma wall sitting right here with the strike around 450. We have some more around 6 and 7. And so a lot of gamma exposure around these levels. And then we have some here at the 350 price. And so gamma, just to put it in simplest terms, this is just where a lot of the dealers are positioned. And this is going for this week right here, so the short term. So if you look at what max pain is, this helps to explain it right here. This is the option strike price with the most open contracts, and thus the price that causes financial losses for the largest number of options holders at expiration. And so with gamma, when we look at the gamma on the S&P, there has been a big gamma wall right at that 700 level, and this is just because this is where a lot of dealers are positioned. And so a lot of options contracts have been expiring out of the money, which is beneficial for the dealers. And so a lot of gamma exposure right here, right above the spot where we are currently at, and some underneath. So looking at Big Bear, 2 levels where I could expect it to go to, depending on how the markets are reacting tomorrow and also how the earnings affects Big Bear. We may see Big Bear drop back down to $3.50 or right around that level, or we could start to push up closer to that 450 range and possibly higher with gamma exposure. Once you do start to break through some of these walls, this is where some of these dealers will have to buy, potentially, not always, but will have to buy. And that is when we could start to see that squeeze up in the stock price. But again, I am not expecting the most out of Big Bear's earnings tomorrow. But by the way, if you enjoy this live and you do want to see me go live for Big Bear's earnings, let me know in the live chat. I'm probably on the side or down below, depends on where you're watching, whether it's on mobile or laptop. But there's a lot of interesting things happening in the markets right now. Yesterday, I did not do my top 3 stocks for the month of March like I normally do. I've been very consistent with doing my top 3 stocks for every single month, but so much is happening right now. Even myself, I am a bit uncertain with what's going on out in Iran. Right now now I'm a bit in a gray zone how to feel. I just feel that energy, oil, the hard metals are going to continue to have a push up this next week. I can't be too certain about technology, to be honest with you, but I do believe in defense, oil, and energy going into this next week. Now, you guys have been very patient. Let me take a look at the chat here. I do love to interact with the chat, but that is basically what I had to say for this week in the stock market, the preparation. So if you just joined us, go back to the first 20 minutes of the stream. We talked all about everything that's happening in Iran. We talked about the fear and greed index and the economic calendar, and also the Federal Reserve, and just right now, Big Bear AI's earnings. And so now getting to the live chat here, let's go to the live chat. So, okay, looks like this came in. Okay, this actually came in slightly before the live started. So local reviewer, thank you for being early here, says, God bless DJT. Talk of DJT stock. We could do that here in this live stream. We could definitely do that. Again, with these lives on Sunday, if this is the first time you were joining me, what we are doing every single Sunday, we are talking about what we could expect, like I was formerly putting in videos, but now with this live stream. And so typically the first 20 to 30 minutes is going to be filled with just the economic data and everything I studied for the week, the weekly preparation. And then after that, I just open it up to the chat and we have a lot of fun, talk about a lot of different stuff. George, I saw that. Yo to the world. What about DJT stock? All right, so we got some DJT fans. We will get there, my friend. Stay in tune with us. I got some requests for DJT, so that could be the next one that we do talk about. TMTG stock, please. My energy ETF is doing very well. David, what energy ETF do you have? We talked a little bit about an ETF earlier around defense, talking about the defense plays, by the way. These are some big defense tickers right now. I've seen a lot of talk online about Axon, so that's a very interesting one, but very interesting to look at that defense and then energy sector. So we do got some big ones here when it comes to energy. XLE, this is one of the biggest ones. Let's take a look here at XLE. Look at how that's looking. I mean, gosh, look at that right there. That is an absolute rip there. We are elevated on the relative strength index, and we are high on the MACD, but the great thing when it comes to ETFs, these don't run as volatile as individual stocks. And right now, the macros are supporting bullish momentum for this sector of energy. So just because we are overextended on the relative strength index, and we did unfortunately see a bearish cross on that MACD. Well, unfortunately, if you were a bull here in XLE, I do believe that we could stay elevated at these higher levels, especially with all the uncertainty that we have in the air. And just talking about different assets, again, this weekend was very interesting with cryptocurrency. So going into this next week, I am not fading crypto also. I think it's very interesting that with Bitcoin, we didn't quite fall back down to the lows that we were at right here. So we did start to have a retraction with the initial news of what is happening in the Middle East, but then we did have a pop back up. So my eyes are on this right here. And again, the markets are going to be officially opening, the overnight markets, in 10 minutes. And so we may start to see a lot of price action when it comes to crypto. We'll see a lot of price action across the board, but very interesting. So I am not fading the crypto plays this week either. The big ones like MSTR, like some of these reserves, MicroStrategy. Let's take a look here on technical analysis with MSTR. So it has been in a very nasty downtrend for a long time, the midpoint of last year, but we have started to see some sideways consolidation. And if we do start to see Bitcoin have a reversal, MSTR may be a great trade opportunity. Same as BMNR. This is more around Ethereum, Bitmine, Immersion having quite the rough time here in the short term, falling well under the 50-day and 200-day MA, now at $19. Some interesting trades that may be presenting if we do see bullish momentum in crypto. Again, my main looks this week are around energy, oil, What else here? And then cryptocurrency kind of after that. Just looking at a lot of those defense ETFs. Palantir, we covered Big Bear. I think that's going to be very interesting. Let's cover DJT stock really quick because there is some here in the chat that are requesting Trump Media and Technology Group. So with TMTG, with DJT, we have seen a hard retraction. We have fallen well under many levels of support here. We are under the 200-day and we are now sadly under the 50-day MA. We are low on the relative strength index, and then on the MACD, we have been pushed down there. I still do believe there's a lot of potential with DJT, but there was some news most recently. So let's take a look here at the news. And so there may be a spinoff. The move would split off the money. Oh, come on. I hate when they want you to pay for the article. You know, on this channel, we always do everything free. There is no paid advice. I don't believe in having to pay for anything when it comes to financial advice. I do believe in investments and investments into yourself. I do believe that it could be great to attend like an in-person course, something like that. But when it comes to these different articles, I don't believe in paying for them, because if I don't want to go with the New York Times, well, I could go with one of these other providers. But with DJT stock, let's take a look here at what this article is saying. So on Fridays, they said that they were exploring a spinoff of Truth Social, the social media platform of choice for the president. Truth Social could become a separate publicly traded company following the forthcoming closing of its merger with Fusion Power from TAE Technologies, more around energy there. According to a press release, shares of Trump Media fell more than 2% in a choppy session on Friday. Such a move will bring more public market attention to Truth Social, the platform where Trump has been known for announcing everything from military strikes to policies like tariffs. And so very interesting. We could see a spinoff here. We could see a totally different ticker symbol. You know, I don't know what to make exactly of this. Please let me know in the chat, either on the side or down below, depending on where you are participating, of what you think with this. What is very interesting altogether with the Trump plays, you know, none of them, unfortunately, have really had too much of a run. So we have seen DJT have a hard retraction. We have also seen Trump coin, if you are into cryptocurrency, also have a very hard retraction. There's been a lot of different catalysts that, you know, did help to pump the stock in the short term, but we have seen a lot of hard retractions with DJT. What I will say with Trump Media and Technology Group, with this ticker DJT, is we have done a lot of analysis on this over the last, you know, year and a half, and I purchased my shares in DJT all the way back at this level here in September of 2024, and it has been a wild ride. Unfortunately for me, the shares have went down, but I am holding these shares for the long term of Trump's presidency and also playing with options contracts along the way. And what I will say with DJT, when it comes to the midterms coming later in the year, this stock right here does move a lot off of the meme stock energy and then also off of political energy. And so with this being the midterms, we may be seeing a big opportunity for DJT to have a face rip and rally at some time through the year. And right now we are beat down in terms of all the technicals, even lower than we were in September of 2024. So a lot of upside potential with DJT. We could always retract some more with DJT, get into the single digit range. But what I will say with Trump Media and Technology Group is there are a lot of big holders in this company, a lot of big politicians. There's also a lot of funds that hold DJT. And then also the president's family does hold about 50% of the shares in Trump Media and Technology Group. So a lot of big money does want to see DJT run. And in the past, we have seen crazy momentum with DJT. And again, it was when he was mainly running for president right around the elections and then also the inauguration. And so we're going to have a lot of that energy coming later into this year. Okay, now getting back to the chat here. Norris, thank you so much for joining us once again. It was great to see you last week. I think you might have even joined us the week before. So thank you for being here once again. again. We have a great audience here. We have 13 members in the live stream. Thank you to everybody who is here in the live. I truly love doing this. I love making all my videos and going live. This is so much fun, and I plan on doing this every single Sunday. So Norris, if you just got here, or anybody else, the first 20 to 30 minutes of this live stream is talking all about the geopolitical tensions that we are seeing, the Federal Reserve, and what to expect on the economic calendar. And now we're just doing some individual stock requests, and the markets should be opening here in about 4 minutes. Two Wheels Pursuit. Hello, my friend. Great to see you. You were also here the last couple of weeks, so it's great to see you once again. Is it good to trade with the SPY and QQQ? Absolutely. If you were looking to get some trades under your belt, Norris, it is, when it comes to the SPY and the triple Qs, these move with a lot less of volatility than a lot of different individual stocks. Now, here in the short term, we have been seeing quite the sideways trend when it does come to the S&P, the SPY, but I do believe here in the near future, sometime soon, even with all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that we are seeing, I do believe that we are going to get a break up at some point, and we are going to go above 700. And again, just when we talk about the concept of gamma with the options contracts, let's take a look here at the gamma with SPY. There's a big gamma wall, a lot of pressure right around that $700 mark. So I mean, look at all of that right here. A lot of volume in the contracts around the 690s, but quite the wall has been placed at 700. But I do believe once we pass through 700, we're going to see a lot of really bullish momentum in the markets. And when it does come to the SPY and the triple Qs, again, in the short term, it has been very range bound. And so investors who are trading, day trading especially, having some hard short movements with these. But it all depends on how you trade, because just talking about the options, I don't do 0 DTE, 0 day till expiration options, but I know a lot do this with the triple Qs and the SPY. But just thinking about trading in terms of shares, there has been a lot of swing trading opportunity. I look at the TQQQ a lot for trading opportunities. I recently just purchased an options contract in TQQQ with this retraction that we have had. This is the triple leveraged triple Qs, the NASDAQ, the triple Qs. So we'll see how it does open up here in about 2 minutes. But I am a big fan of trading between the SPY and the triple Qs, a big fan of also holding these index terms for the long term, including some others such as the Russell 2000. So I don't really talk about the Russell a lot on this channel. The Russell also, just like the other indexes, has been lagging and to the side, but this is the small cap. So if you want a big index fund for the small caps, take a look at that Russell 2000. And so, yeah, day trading in the major indexes is a pretty good strategy. If you're able to, collect data on the daily charts, if you're able to watch them, a lot of opportunities for both purchasing, if you are going long either shares or options, or you could always play with the shorts as well. So if you don't have a belief in the markets, not just shorting, but you could also be in the index of shorting SQQQ. So a lot of interesting plays with the indexes again in the short term. If many of these individual stocks have chopped you up, the indexes are a safer place to be. And if you're just looking to perfect your trading and, really sharpen your sword, I do think the indexes are a great place to be at. Happy to see live Big Bear AI earnings. Yes, everybody who just joined me, if you didn't see the analysis on Big Bear AI, we talked about it a little bit earlier. If you want to see me go live for the Big Bear tomorrow afternoon, please let me know in the live stream, either down below or on the side, or if you were watching the replay, let me know if you want to see me go live on the Big Bear tomorrow. Everything is going to be fine. He needs a green Oxford. LOL. I do have this. If you're talking about the bulls right here, I do got the Big Bear back there, but look at that ox right there, looking strong. The Golden Wall Street Bull. That is pretty cool right there. And okay, 6 o'clock. Let's see, where did we start here? Let's go to the Qs. It should just have had a little bit of a gap here. Let's take a look. I'm going to look here on my phone, and right now my portfolio is down a little bit. So let's see what has started up or down here to start the day. Will Big Bear AI go to a penny stock? I don't believe it's going to go back into the pennies. I do believe there's a lot of real value with Big Bear. You know, if you've been following along the Big Bear, they do have a long-term vision. Let's see. Gosh, my internet is going super slow here. Let's see how the Big Bear has opened up. So the Big Bear has opened up lower than it was when we just talked about it moments ago. But if you're invested into the Big Bear, you know, they always talk about the long-term vision that they have with the company. I do have a lot of faith with the Big Bear. I am not expecting them to go to pennies anytime soon. Again, we kind of looked at the gamma exposure with Big Bear. I see there being a range in between $3.50 to possibly around $5, depending on how the earnings does go tomorrow. But in the short term, things have been kind of choppy and sideways with the Big Bear, but I don't believe that we will go to that single digit range. The triple Qs is down in the overnight session. I'm sure the same is to be said with the SPY. Again, I'm just looking at this right now on my phone, but the SPY is down. Let's see what else is down here. It looks like AMD has had a drop. Looks like Robinhood, I believe, has had a drop. Again, my phone is going so slow here. Let's take a look here at Robinhood. So it looks like Robinhood has had a drop here in the overnight. I hope I'm still here with all of you. I don't know why all of a sudden my internet is going so slow. I'm just going to pull some of these tabs here, close some of these tabs through some of the stuff that we've went through, try to improve my internet here. Okay, but it does look like Robinhood has gone lower. Oh, I don't want to reload that site. Having some technical issues, everybody. Give me just a second here. Watching from New Zealand, what are your thoughts on gold? I'm a big believer in the hard metals, especially right now with everything that we are seeing. So we talked a little bit about silver earlier, and the same to be said with gold. I could see gold continuing to have a push with all the problems that we are seeing right now in the markets. And it does look like Robinhood has gapped down, just like many of the different individual stocks. So Robinhood in itself in a downtrend. I do like where we are sitting at in terms of technical analysis. Low on the relative strength index, low on the MACD, just recently seeing a bullish cross, but a lot of geopolitical tensions in the air right now. I do believe that Robinhood will push up if the overall markets push up. But if we do start to see more red this week, Robinhood could continue in this downtrend right here. But that is a good suggestion there. Ugo, let's take a look here at gold. Let's take a look here at the gold futures. And so gold here, where is gold at? Gold having a decent push most recently. So gold having a gap up, taking back some of that gap, but gold looking very bullish right now at 5,300. Crazy to see that price on gold at 5,300, because I remember the days when gold was a lot lower. Back here, let's take a look. First times I was looking at gold when I really started to get into the stock market. I mean, look at that squeeze right there. That is nuts. I was looking back at gold when I really started to get into the markets was 2017, man. Gold back at just $1,000. That's crazy. I remember gold in the 2000s, and then boom, most recently this last year, there has been a massive push in the hard metals. How to make money on this oil, defense, and aerospace. We did talk about some of those ETFs earlier. Let me see. I think this is a big ETF that is around defense. So yeah, there you go. SPDR, the Spider, S&P Aerospace and Defense ETF. Look at that right there. You have that. You know, they have some Lockheed Martin and some others, but I'm mainly looking at the defense for aerospace and all that around the ETFs. But that is because my main sector of expertise is mainly around technology, but that has been having a hard time most recently. And so for these other sectors, I am mainly looking at the ETFs, a way I could participate without having quite as much volatility in some individual stocks. And this, this recent market cycle that we have had, this has been a good lesson for me, and I'm sure for many, to be diversified and to also, always be knowledgeable of all sectors, because I am tech heavy myself. That is mainly what I focus on. And, all of this has been pretty eye-opening to continue to expand the horizon and talk about other sectors. But yeah, if you just got here, Kai, we've talked about a ton when it comes to the hard metals, also with energy, oil, defense, all of that. We did some analysis on Big Bear AI, which is going to be reporting earnings tomorrow to start off March here for the defense stocks. What energy stocks, ETFs to buy during this war? Again, we went over a little bit of this earlier, Kai. You could look at XLE. That is a good one. You could also look at some individual stocks such as Exxon. You have Chevron. And you have a lot around there. Ondas, we did talk a little bit about Ondas last week. This is another defense stock. They do have a lot of contracts with the United States, and they do have their drone technology. And Ondas is now at 1048. Wow. So Ondas actually having a big gap up. Ondas is looking very bullish, because when we do look at a lot of stocks in the market, they were a lot higher in October, and then they have had a retraction and been under their October peaks. But when it comes to Ondas, Ondas has jumped once again. And then when we look at Ondas in terms of technical analysis, slightly under the 50-day moving average, right at the middle on the relative strength index. And then recently just had a cross on the MACD. So in terms of technical analysis, everything is looking at interesting with Ondas right now. I am going to add Ondas to my list of potential day trade opportunities tomorrow, something I will be looking at. By the way, just talking about day trading opportunities, recently I did do a day trade with Circle Internet Group. Now, I did scale out of my position with Circle, and that is just because Circle did have a big gap up with the earnings that they had, and so gaps are typically meant to be filled. But what's very interesting with everything that is happening with cryptocurrency right now in terms of price action, it has been very rough. And Circle Internet Group is the company with US dollar coin, and so they've bought a ton of treasuries. And if we do see the Genius bill get passed, this will be massive for all of cryptocurrency. And last year, Genius Internet Group, gosh, Circle Internet Group. That's what it is. Genius Internet Group. That's funny. Circle Internet Group had a lot of momentum when the Genius bill and everything was going through. Now, we have seen a hard retraction, but we have started to have a push up, but looking a bit overextended on the relative strength index. But we could have more potential to push even higher on the MACD, especially when that bill does go through, because that will put a real backing to the US dollar with all these stable coins. And this could save a lot of nations, including Iran, and everything that is happening with Iran right now, because they have had a collapse on the currency. And if we're just talking about the government and even the new world order, a big push with that will be digital currency, having everything digital, scanning QR codes. Some even talk about having actual chips in us. But the cash society is basically dead at this point. They aren't even printing pennies anymore. And so every single day we are going closer and closer to a digital currency altogether. This Genius bill, very interesting. And, with nations such as Iran with collapsing currency, if the United States does take over Iran, we could see a switch up when it comes to the currency, get more people into cryptocurrency. And with, the actual stable coin bill that we are seeing, that really makes it a lot more possible. Energy stocks are pumping. Silver, gold too. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Great to still see you here in the live chat. Yes, let's take a look at how iShares has opened up here in the overnight. So iShares having a little bit of some movement. We did have that hard red candle, but already coming back with the green. But for the long term, I do believe with you, Stephanie, here. And in the short term, this is just the overnight market. So I do enjoy doing this on Sunday. today, but really the overnight market is just to get some, have some fun, connect with all of you, get some dopamine from finally seeing some price action after a long weekend. But the movements really happen in the first 30 minutes to hour of the market open, the official market open, and then as the normal trading hours are going through. So right now, I wouldn't feel a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FOMO, or many emotions with this overnight market. Just take a look at where you may want to position yourself and where you may want to be at the beginning of tomorrow's trading session, because we do see that main volatility right at the market open. David, is this the energy ETF you have? We talked about this earlier, so this must be the energy ETF. We were talking about the energy ETFs earlier, and David said he had one. So the LSE stock. So it looks like it's on the London Stock Exchange. Is that? Well, that is the LSE. Oh, the IESU on the LSE. I see what you mean there. That's funny. ISE ETF. The energy sector ETF, the iShares, very interesting. It looks like, it's had some very bullish momentum. So, David, congratulations on the winning with this right here. That is great to see. I'm all about making this money on oil, defense, aerospace, and rare earths. Hey, I agree with you exactly. That's why we set the thumbnail to what we set it to today, and why the whole first 30 minutes of this stream was dedicated all to those sectors. What about ITA? Let's see. Let's take a look here at ITA. Aerospace and defense ETF. Again, with all of these ETFs, what's so great about them? They have a lot of diversification within them. So what's great is these are actively managed, and they are well positioned with actual managers doing all of this for you. And so with the ETFs, a lot less downside volatility than we see in many different individual stocks. So Kai, this is a tremendous opportunity right here. With everything that is happening geopolitically, I could definitely see this ETF going a lot higher. I appreciate you saying this, because we did not talk about this one earlier, but ITA, that is very interesting. Let's take a look here at the technicals with ITA. Look at how it is performing in terms of the MACD, the relative strength index, everything like that. So it's been having some very bullish momentum, well above the 200-day MA and the 50-day MA, pushing up on the relative strength index. And we recently did see a bullish cross on the MACD. So not just with this ETF, but the whole sector of energy looking very bullish right now. What is ITA? Well, you just saw it there, Norse. Never have I been more proud to be an American, kidnapping presidents, beating Canada in the hockey men and women. The leader of Iran is gone in one day. I feel like Charlie Sheen just saying wing. That is so funny. Stephanie, again, great to see you here in the live chat. Yeah, things have been crazy. I mean, when we just talk about the news in 2026, it's been absolutely wild with everything that has gone on, all the way from the initial thing with Maduro to all of the sudden everything happening in Mexico recently, and then what is happening now with war out in the Middle East. Unfortunate to see. Again, I feel so blessed to be out here in Tempe, Arizona, but many places are having bombs dropped on them currently. So that is crazy. Does one do better just long term? It seems like day traders make a ton. So what I will say when it comes to day trading or swing trading or options trading or any type of trading, it's really important to think about what your goals with the stock market are. And if you are going to do a day trade, really make sure that you understand that you are in a trade and not an investment. Really have a time horizon. Is this a day trade for you? Is this a swing trade for you? Or is this a long-term investment? What I will say is going long does bring down some of the volatility. If you are in a winning play, that's what's so great about ETFs, such as what we have here on screen, is if you are willing to hold long-term, if this is an investment for you over over the long term, the short term volatility doesn't mean as much. And, you don't have to be as correct as you do if you are day trading or swing trading to say, because you have more time. So if you are long term investing, talking about a year or longer, you have a longer time horizon, that decreases some of the short term volatility in thinking. And then also another benefit is if you do hold longer than a year, the capital gains. And so you do got to pay on the short-term profits. The taxes are higher if you are doing day trading, which means you got to be more consistently. But if you do understand these markets, and also if you are able to have a strong mind, that is another thing. If you're going to do some short-term trading, you better have a strong mind. You better know when to take profits or feel comfortable with taking profits, knowing that things could rise even higher. And on the other side of it all, what is really hard for many when it comes to day trading or short-term trading is it can be an attack on your ego, because naturally we all want to be correct in our thinking, right? If we're going to do something, especially a speculative bet, we are going into it thinking that we are going to be correct, hoping and placing that bet to say that we are going to come out as long-term winners. But this is where in the stock market sometimes you got to be a great loser, especially if you are going in the short term, because if you are day trading and you are wrong initially, right? Like let's say you're doing a day trade. Let's just pick any different individual stock here. Let's take a look at Robinhood. Let's not even look here at the gap that we just saw, but let's take a look here at the last trading session, right? Say you bought here on the sold reversal and then you make money. Great, right? That's, the ultimate thought of what you want to happen, right? You buy here at this reversal hoping to make more, but say you buy in somewhere around this level thinking, oh my gosh, the rally will continue, but then the stock starts to drop and your thesis for the day, what you thought initially would happen doesn't happen. At that point, if you were back to where you started at break even, it is advised to cut there, cut out at break even or at a paper cut loss. But where many traders will go wrong is they don't want to accept that their ego is too big to let them accept that they may be wrong. And that is where they could see a lot of their portfolio drain, especially if they see them take their short-term day trade or swing trade and turn it into a long-term investment just because they were wrong. So with day trading, it is a lot of practice. It's a lot of emotion. And just like anything else, reps, more time in the chair with time should help to produce better results. But you'll even hear a lot of the best day traders on YouTube, a lot of the real ones talk about how it's all about emotion, proper risk management, time in the market versus timing the market. Now with trading, you are trying to time the market just a little bit more, but constantly being there and not just getting caught in constant losses. But when you do get caught in a loss, accepting it and just kind of having that next day mentality. But with that, Nora, some do make it look really easy. And, there are unfortunately a lot of grifters out there too. So, one of my 6 golden rules on the stock market is never trust anybody on Wall Street. That includes all of these different influencers out there, even me, even though I'm not trying to sell you anything, always take everything I am saying with a grain of salt and always do your own due diligence. As investors, all we can always try to do is improve ourselves. Oklo is great. Yeah, we talked a little bit about Oklo last week. Oklo looking pretty bullish too, going heavy long on silver, dropping 500 Monday morning. That is a big thumbs up. I do believe that silver will continue to push up, especially with everything that we are seeing and some of the runs that we are seeing with the COMEXs. Oh, I heard about the Russell. Yes, a major index, a major ETF for all of the small caps. Hey, Stephanie, happy birthday. So is this a joke here, Norris? You said happy birthday like last stream. I don't know if you see something on Stephanie's side that says it's her birthday, but Stephanie, if it's your birthday today, or if it was last week, or if it's 6 months from now, happy birthday to you. Oh man, thank you so much. Just getting wasted today. Big 35 for me. That is so funny. Well, if it's truly your birthday, Stephanie, I hope you're having an amazing day, having some cake, having some alcohol, if that's how you're getting wasted, unless you're just getting sugar wasted, having some cake, right? Having some cake and ice cream. We want to see you in the morning. Oh, you want to see me in the morning? You want to see me do some day trading, some live day trading. So I'm probably not going to live. Well, I'm not going to live stream tomorrow morning. I do plan on doing some live day trading in the future, but I'm setting everything up. I'm going to have a portfolio dedicated to just doing that. And so where we could all track the progress together. But Stephanie, I may be going live tomorrow for Big Bear AI's earnings, which is going to be just 15 minutes after the market closes. And so what I'll likely do is start my live stream right as the market does close. Ha ha ha. 35 is an awesome age. Yeah, I agree. You are young until you no longer believe you are young. It is all within the mind. And so I have seen some individuals in my life who are even in their 70s, 80s, 90s. I've never quite met anybody that is 100, but some of these individuals still are so healthy, still walking around, have a very healthy mindset. And so, as investors, a big part of this game is with psychology, right? Never tapping yourself out from just one market session, from 1 week, from one bad month, staying within the game. So let's always just try to practice keeping great psychology for all of us investors, never going on tilt, right? Because our mind is the most powerful muscle of them all. Oh, my birthday money is going to silver and crypto. I love to see that. Stephanie, what type of cryptos are you investing into? We'll see how much my husband gives me. Hopefully he's a generous man for your birthday. I pray XRP and silver will retire me. Let's take a look here at XRP. We talked a little bit about it last stream. XRP, another asset that is in a very rough downtrend. We have seen XRP bleeding since July. Right now, XRP is right at a major level of support, right around this 150 mark, slightly underneath that. I do believe that XRP is pretty correlated with all of the cryptos. And if we do start to see some push in cryptocurrency, Stephanie, you could be happy, as we could start to see a push up again in XRP. But what I will say with XRP, again, it's, nothing against XRP in particular, but so many different stocks do what a lot of different cryptos do, and that is a lot of dilution. And unfortunately, we have seen a lot of dilution in this downtrend with XRP. And what I will say with XRP, one thing that I don't like is there is a lot of YouTubers and just, different influence on Twitter. And it is kind of like the cult-like mentality. Everybody is always just talking about the upside, but never the potential downside with XRP or really any other cryptocurrency. With cryptocurrency, I am most bullish on Bitcoin. And, the best read, I would say, for anybody that wants to learn more about cryptocurrencies or to understand why I am, so bullish on Bitcoin, to say, is if you look at the Bitcoin Standard. This is a book I had a friend let me borrow it. The Bitcoin Standard, such a great read. This book talks all about cryptocurrency, the real utility behind Bitcoin, and also just, the history of money. So if you really want to know the history of money to understand hard money versus fiat, the Bitcoin Standard is a very interesting read, especially because in this book, it also does talk about how the quality of products will change when things do go off of a true, real, sound money system, when things aren't as real of money, when it's not gold or silver. Once you start to see that fiat currency, that is also when you see the quality of products decrease, which we have seen in our world. When money is sound and true and real, if you're talking about spending your hard-earned money on something like a bookshelf or a bed shelf, gosh, I can't think of the word. What is it? Gosh, a bed frame. My gosh, I can't think about it. If you're spending money on a bed frame or a bookshelf, if it's real money, if we're in a hard money society, sound money, you expect the quality of those products to be better. But with everything that we have now, we have IKEA furniture, furniture, and with all these different furnitures, they always try to give you the most small screws and try to skimp on everything. And that is because we have fiat currency now, right? You can also see the quality of music has gone down. Back in the day when we had sound money, you had beautiful notes with Beethoven and things such as that. Now in today's society, you literally have AI slop music. And so I do recommend for everybody to go check out the Bitcoin Standard. Now, not a financial recommendation, just my opinion, but a great book to help you learn about finances and history. My husband grocery shops for me. Thank God. That is great. Great husband that you have there, Norris. That is great, because going to the store is never any fun. Big Bear AI will recover. Their revenue is sporadic, but government contracts are expected to continue. I do agree with you to Wheel Pursuit. I do believe that things are very bullish in the long term for Big Bear AI. And again, recently I did just purchase the dip on the Big Bear. So with this retraction that we did see most recently, I did purchase into some Big Bear. And I will say I am a little bit high on some of my Big Bear AI purchases. I have some Big Bear that I purchased here in September and in November when we were riding right at that 200-day MA, but we have seen it drop under that level again with Big Bear. What I really like is their earnings is going to be tomorrow in the after hours. Again, I may live stream these earnings, but the expectations are so low. If we do see tomorrow be a strong day for defense, Big Bear could catch some of that momentum. And then if we do see their earnings come in even slightly better than expected, again, the expectations are so low. If we see one of those government contracts finally show up in the quarterly, if we have some type of great beat with Big Bear, we could see a big surge in the price with Big Bear, a lot of momentum, and the technicals are showing that we are oversold on the relative strength index, and then we may be seeing that bullish cross on the MACD, but we are also under the 50-day and the 200-day MA. And we did recently see a death cross. So only time will tell what does happen tomorrow. Excellent. Thanks, mate. Well, thank you, mate, for being here for the live stream. I got in XRP at 3. That is painful, Norris. So I have a friend who's very bullish on XRP, and he told me to get in right when they put it on Robinhood. So I got in when it was under $1. And funny enough, I actually got out right at about 329, and I have never quite looked back in XRP. So that was a great buy and sell for me. So I got into XRP like right, around these levels here, and then there was the massive rip, and I got out at this point, and then XRP did push up even higher than where I had initially sold, but then eventually XRP did drain. And again, with XRP, one thing I really don't like is there is so much dilution with XRP. They are constantly releasing more XRP into circulation. And again, if we just talk about cryptocurrency, something that is very appetizing with Bitcoin is there is a hard cap of just 21 million Bitcoin to ever be released. And there is no company or CEO behind Bitcoin. Now, some speculation that maybe Jeffrey Epstein was a big funder of this. Maybe it's truly the government, but at least the story that we are told, with everything with Bitcoin, there is no real CEO, no real company, unlike XRP, which has Brad Garlinghouse and also Ripple Labs. And so with that, it's not as appetizing to me, because with Bitcoin, there can't just be a ton of shares to say or a ton of coins just released into circulation. It has to happen with hard mining, where XRP could just continue to dilute on investors at really any moment. Green Mo, sorry, I meant Green Oxford as in button down shirt. LOL. Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, the market's a little bit uncertain right now. Again, this is always the weekly preparation for this week in the stock market. My opinion right now, let's see if we've seen the fear and greed index move at all. So we were at 43 last time we checked. I believe it will move once the market really opens. Yeah, it does. 43. Right now, I am personally neutral. I am not really fearful or greedy. My main sector, what I mainly focus on is technology, but there has been a rotation most recently. And again, with the geopolitical tensions, there is a lot going on. And so this is a big reason why I started this channel, just so I could always document everything that I am doing. This is a trading journal of mine. I have seen some wars in the stock market before. We've had Ukraine and Russia that has been going on for many years, but this is another interesting thing to see. And as an investor, this is a big learning lesson for me. So again, I mainly focus on technology, small caps. I'm very focused on robotics, AI, technology, quantum, but I am looking now at more of the energy, the hard metals, the gas, the defense stocks, everything like that. And I think everything that we are seeing is very interesting for all of us investors, because, when we really talk about the volatility that we are seeing in the markets right now, it is absolutely crazy. I mean, we are living in a time when we see stocks have insane pumps up 20, 50%, all just from a post on Truth Social or from some big headline or an AI headline that's not even real sometimes, or from the opinions of Michael Burry saying, oh, we are in an AI bubble. So there is so much influence with the markets in so many different directions. This is the most that retail has ever been involved, and we are really living in some very volatile times. And so right now, things are quite crazy. And so again, if you are in the markets right now, never financial advice, but just my opinion, always proceed with proper risk management and never let just one day, 1 week, or 1 month destroy you, because we are seeing some insane markets right now. And I do believe that the Fed is going to get the markets kicking up even more, especially again, when we do look at the balance sheet with the Fed. They are purchasing a lot of the treasuries, a lot of the assets again, and we may be seeing a big squeeze up soon with some lower interest rates. Look at that time frame around 2020. It was absolutely insane, the quantitative easing that went on. I'm not saying that we're going to get quite the jump that we saw in 2020. It's always possible, especially if the Fed has to do what is considered a Fed put and really save the markets, do some crazy asset buying in a short matter of time, some crazy quantitative easing, some cutting, which may be happening with Kevin Warsh. But if we don't see a Fed put, and if we do see the Fed get the way that they want it, slow and predictable, doing just a quarter point here and there, we will still, in my opinion, see a reversal on this balance sheet. And I do believe that we will eventually be pushing higher than 2022. But we have seen a lot of asset purchases, a lot with the repo market. And again, we did see some rate cuts in 2025, more than was even expected. And so initially, the Fed was saying in 2024 that we were just going to get 2 rate cuts. We actually ended up getting 3. And so right now, not a projection that they do cut at this next meeting. The projection actually went down while we've been live streaming. So it was at 7 earlier. Now just a 6% projection, but I do believe we will get those rate cuts later in the year. And I have been preparing myself, buying the dip on many different great plays and opportunities that I believe in. And I do plan on trading the markets, each and every single week. I've been doing some trading with the markets. And this week, I again am looking at some of the hard metals, energy, oil, all of those different plays as some trades. BBAI tanking right now. Oh no, some fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Let's take a look. How bad is the big bear tanking here in the after hours? So down by 2%. A little bit of a bleed, but again, a lot of the markets right now have gapped down, and this is just in the overnight market. We'll really start to see a lot of that momentum kick off right at the market open. Big Bear AI to $2. I personally don't believe that, Norris. I do believe that Big Bear will stay elevated above where it is at that, $3.50 mark. Now, I could see us going back down to support right around 349, 350. Always the potential that we do go lower, but I do believe we are kind of in a range right now in between 350 and around $4, $5. And ideally, I would like to see the big bear return back to this trend, return back to that 50-day and 200-day MA. Overall, on the technicals, we are low on the relative strength and the MACD, but, we are a little bit under that 200-day and 50-day MA, and there was recently what could be considered the death cross. But overall, we'll see, this again is in the defense sector. So things right now for defense are kind of looking bullish. Norris says I bought 2,000 shares of ONDS. That is terrific, Norris. Have you ever looked at doing options contracts? Do you do any options investing? Because if you were purchasing that many shares of ONDS, a great opportunity in the options market that does provide leverage, but also that does provide an expiration date. But you could leverage on some of those 2,000 shares. If you're purchasing 2,000 with the options, you could have even more shares, being held in your portfolio with those options. Never stop buying XRP. I love the attitude, Stephanie. Steph, will it be like Bitcoin as in gains? Does the overnight market show you how the week will be? Again, Norris, we enjoy doing these Sunday sessions. I've been making videos for a long time talking about everything to expect. We're always looking at the economic calendar, the earnings calendar as well, which, by the way, I haven't actually got a ton into the earnings calendar. So we'll look now at some of the other earnings for the week. But, the overnight market is just the beginning. A lot of the volatility really happens with the actual trading session. Every single day the market open to close, Monday through Friday. And it's a long week. So, just because we're talking about what we could expect, there could always be even more happening. And again, the markets are so volatile that, for example, like at some point with Iran, something could happen, or we could see a tweet, say, from the president that could really shake up the markets, or something around the tariffs, or we could get the Fed saying something. So really, we live in a time frame where news could drop and we either see a big drop or a big rip up. And so these weekly preparation live streams do help us out. But when it comes to just the overnight market, it's hard to really say exactly where things will be going. If you really want to know where things are going, I would suggest tuning into Nancy Pelosi's live stream or one of those other government officials, because those insiders are the only ones that really know what will be happening. All jokes aside, but insiders, they do really know. When we look at Nancy Pelosi's portfolio performance, absolutely insane. But on this earnings calendar, we have some other players. We have AST Space Mobile. Wow, they are projected to have a large earnings tomorrow, the largest they've ever had. Let's take a look here at AST in terms of technical analysis. Space Mobile in that space sector. Space has been looking decently bullish most recently. This company is higher than they were in October. I don't really cover the space stocks personally, but under the 50-day MA, if you're looking for a trade, if ASTS does come out with positive earnings tomorrow and they do meet or beat those expectations, and again, this is not a stock that I cover, but looking at it in just terms of technicals, we could see a bounce up. But I don't really cover the space stocks. I know that later this year we're going to have the big IPO with SpaceX. Apparently that's going to be like $1 trillion IPO if it does happen, but I don't really, look a lot into the space sector because, we can't really, prove exactly what they are doing. There's a lot when it comes to space exploration, but I'll be very honest, what we see from NASA, what we saw earlier in the year with Amazon's Blue Origin being sent up into the sky, some kind of, interesting some visuals that we are seeing, right? The camera work that we see and everything is very interesting. So when it comes to space exploration, these companies, it's hard to say what's really going on. And we know with the markets, there's a lot of cooking of the books. And with the investments that I am in, I like to really see the real world. I really like to see them with my own eyes. Like a big reason why I am so bullish on Robinhood stock is because I have Robinhood on my phone, or Big Bear AI. You actually see them at the the airports, or Palantir. We know that they are getting a lot of real world use with the government. We could really see that with what Palantir is doing in other places. And that is not to say like Palantir is doing the best things either. There's a lot of divide when it comes to Palantir, a lot of opinions on Palantir, but with space, it's like, question for everybody. Do you believe in the moon landing? Let me know that, right? When it comes to space, a lot of speculation. It's like, look at just companies that you don't actually see their product. One was Nikola, when they pushed that truck down the hill to show investors that it was really doing something. So that's kind of how I feel about space. But then on Tuesday, we have some retailers. We have Target, we have Best Buy, we have AutoZone. Later in the week, we have Costco reporting, and something interesting to think about with just different stocks. With Target, for example, a defense stock, most recently, something that many have been getting into is Walmart. And so now, if you're just like a novice investor just looking at Target to Walmart in comparison of stock price, you're like, oh, Target's $113, Walmart is $127. You may be thinking, oh, I want to get into Target as a defense play because Walmart has rode so hot and Target hasn't been as hot as Walmart has in terms of technical analysis. Well, where Walmart is making new highs, the same as to not be said with Target. They were a lot higher in 2024. So if you're just looking at stock price, you may be saying, oh, I'm going to get into Target for the defense. But something crazy, with the difference between these two companies, and just with a little bit of research, could be really mind-blowing, is the size difference with companies, even if they do seem to be pretty close to each other, or even in many ways head-to-head, because some talk about the comparison of Target to Walmart. But look at this. This is crazy right here. Walmart, their last quarter, they had a revenue at $190 billion, so close to $200 billion, and Walmart's market cap is at $1 trillion. When we look at Target, which is another, big box retailer, you see a lot of Walmarts and Targets, at least in my area out here in Arizona. I see a lot of them around Tempe and Phoenix, but you may be surprised. Walmart with a $1 trillion market cap with $190 billion with their last quarterly. Target doesn't even come close. They have a market cap of just $51 billion, so significantly smaller, with their revenue being much smaller. So there are many more Walmarts out there. Targets are positioned in many more cities, where you will see Walmart in many cities, but also in many different rural areas. And Walmart also does have gas. You have all the Walmart gas stations, which I don't believe that Target does have. But Target is also not a bad buy. I'm not trying to pick on Target right here. There is a dividend with Target and also a decent play for safety, but just not as large as Walmart. It's like, with that comparison, one that had really surprised me when I had done research back in the day and I initially discovered this was McDonald's. Market cap $242 billion, their revenue at $7 billion, so a lot of revenue. Wendy's, I see a lot of Wendy's around my area, but not even close in terms of comparison. Their revenue at $543 million, so not even a billion, where McDonald's is hitting up to $7 billion on their quarterlies, and a trillion market cap, where Wendy's has just $1.5 billion. And now, guys, we're going to get right back into the chat. I appreciate everybody who has been here for the chat. I'm a little behind on the chats here, so we'll get through some of them now. We got a case of the ups and downies. That is very true. We have been very range bound. Again, when we look at the major indexes, both of those, the NASDAQ and the SPY, have been very sideways for a long time. Hi, George. Yeah, me, Tiger Blood, Adondas, DNA, you, Booger Blood, Poo Poo DNA. What is that from? That's an interesting chat there. How you doing, Norris? Good to see you tonight. Good to see you, George. Good to see you, Norris. George, thank you for emailing me the other day. Again, great to hear from you. And the same to be said with anybody. If you want to email me, you are free to do so at any time. I always love to connect with other investors. I am always approachable. You can email me at greenmoneymomentum@gmail.com. Hi, Two Wheels. George, doing groovy, ready for the week. I am. Do you still get taxed on loss? Losses could actually help you with taxes. A popular strategy is to hedge some of the losses against the wins at the end of the year. You could take some acceptable losses, as they say, just don't invest into those opportunities for 30 days. But yeah, losses actually do have some tax benefits, but ideally we want to win. But yeah, losses can be hedged against the wins. All right, let's get through some of these chats now. I'm really behind. Oh no, I just hit something and it kind of messed up. I was on the stock scanner and they were listing stocks on live and a guy kept saying, "Good morning." I thought he meant General Motors. He was saying good morning. I lost. Proud of you guys for investing, you two wheels. Well, I'm proud of all of us. Thank you all for being here. Thanks, Norris. Yeah, get these cheap shares now. Everything on sale. I do agree with that. I remember leading up into April of 2025, there was so much fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So many were thinking that avocados were going to crazy prices. Everyone thought the tariffs were going to ruin everything. And here we are a year later, a little bit less than a year, and we are much higher than we were in April, showing that many times it is best to buy when others are fearful. Be greedy when others are in a spot of fear, as they say. I call sales stocks, and I'm in stock of sales. Instead of JD Vance, should have made Charlie Sheen his VP. I like that. That way we can really be winning. Well, he had Elon Musk with him, and we don't really know how sober Elon Musk was. So anything's possible, right? RXT 453% pump. Is this what is RXT? Let's take a look here at RXT. Is this like a micro stock that's had a crazy euphoric run most recently? Yeah, there we go. All right. Have you seen some big jumps in rack space, huh? Two wheels. Pump, baby. Happy birthday. I guess it's everybody's birthday to you, Norris, huh? You haven't wished me a happy birthday. I'm just joking, by the way. My poor buddy bought 8,000 shares in BBAI at 7. Oh, no. And he's 65. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. That is unfortunate for your friend. With time, the goal with the portfolio is to bring down the volatility. With time, your friend who is 65, he should not be purchasing 8,000 shares in the Big Bear. And myself, I don't actually have any shares in Big Bear, like holding any individual stocks. I am all in options contracts with Big Bear, some leaps going in to 2027. So I am bullish on the Big Bear, but with it being a small cap, the options are cheap. And so I do have some shares. I have some options contracts which hold shares of Big Bear in them, but absolutely brutal. If your poor buddy bought 8,000 shares in Big Bear at $7, he's probably feeling pretty poor, especially because he's going all in at 65 years old. Let's take a look. What would that calculation? 8,000 times 7. So he put $56,000 into the Big Bear. If this is true right here, he put $56,000 into the Big Bear at $7. $50,000 at $7 right now. That would be worth. Oh man. You guys make me crack up, man. 31,680. Oh, a $23,000 unreal loss on paper. Not good to see. Soon all government buildings and most corporations will have biometric scanners. Yeah, that and cameras, face scan technology, all of that. Big brother, right? I already see BBAI in a lot of airports. I agree with you. It's been quite a while since I have been on a plane, but the last time I was at the airports and the time before that and all the different airports that I have been at, I have seen a lot of Big Bear. I need to do some traveling here very soon. I've been in Arizona for way too long. I'm going a little bit stir crazy. So I do plan on doing a vacation here sometime in the near future, but I have just been so incredibly busy. Insiders in Congress make more than Buffett. Yeah. Two wheels, like in BBAI. Looks like you guys are having some conversation between each other. That is great. They are exploding the space between your ears. Also, military installations. Oh, are you talking about on the chat? Is Stephanie number 2? I wonder who's number 1 there. BBAI. Okay, looks like we've gotten through the chat here. Wow, that was a lot of fun, guys. This is the part of the stream where I'm probably going to start just wrapping it up here, unless you guys want to talk some more. We did 2 hours last week. We did 2 hours the week before, but today's stream packed with a ton of info here in an hour and 20 minutes. I don't really have much more to say. We saw the overnight market open here. If you just joined us, the first 30 minutes of this stream was dedicated all to what we can expect to see for this upcoming week, including talks around what we recently saw this last weekend with Iran. We talked about some energy stocks, the defense stocks. We talked all around the hard metals. And so overall, some fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the markets right now, but this also does present a lot of opportunity in the markets as well. Rackspace partnered with Palantir. Okay, very interesting. You should teach options class, Norissa. I love options. Norris, I called you Norissa for the first time this stream. I love options. A great book I recommend is Options as a Strategic Investment. I have made some videos about options before, and I appreciate you saying that you find my information valuable, because I love to study the options market. I am constantly trying to learn more with the options. Again, we talked a little bit about gamma exposure in this stream. I think gamma is very interesting, especially the exposure where the gamma wall is at, where all the dealers are positioned, and there's always more that we can learn as investors. And so I do believe there's a lot to learn with options, and I appreciate you saying that, Norris. And yeah, I plan on talking more about options, making some more videos just talking about options. So many different ways that you could play in the options market. And if you follow along with a lot of my different individual stock videos, I always try to throw in golden nuggets in every single video. So you never know in each video what I'll talk about, whether it's around the Federal Reserve, around the hard metals, around just technology, technical analysis, or sometimes I will talk about options contracts. Something about private cloud. Well, that is interesting. Well, everybody, I appreciate you again for joining me. It's been a great time here on the live. For everybody that participated, another successful Sunday daily talk of stock. We're going to continue to do these every single Sunday. That is the goal. So if you enjoyed this live stream, I should be back for next Sunday. We'll just have to see how these markets play out this week. But thank you all so much for joining me. As always, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I will see you in tomorrow's daily talk of stock. Have a great night, everyone. And thank you again for joining me on the live today. Oh, we got one more chat. We'll get through this one last chat. I would dig if Trev put out a more in-depth video about options. I have to head out. Be safe, everyone, and have good hunting this week. I'm also heading out, George. And yes, I do plan on doing that here in the very near future. So absolutely, my friend. And again, all of you are my Green Money Momentum family. So thank you for joining me once again. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great night and take care. And I will see you all in tomorrow, maybe even for tomorrow's live stream. We will see. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.